With us to talk more about this is Bill Cunningham. He's the host of The Big Show with Bill Cunningham. He's also served as an assistant attorney general in Ohio. So you know the law there, Bill, and you've seen now 2 clips of video. You've seen the body camera, and you've probably seen the video that was taken by other cell phones and cameras. Just as a former attorney there in Ohio, what do you think?
I tell you what's at work here is that we're dealing with small-town Ohio towns, and he's charged with disorderly conduct and also criminal trespass. DC means that you cause alarm to another. It's kind of a catch-all phrase. And criminal trespass means you're on the property of another without privilege to do so. But I think here's the key element that I think Evan maybe wittingly or unwittingly fed into, and that is you might recall in the video that there was a time when the female sergeant with the highway patrol, when there was a little bit of a possible altercation developing between the General, Harris, and Evan. Where did she turn to stop the aggressor? If you watch the video closely, instantaneously, the sergeant with the highway patrol turns toward the General, Harris, and kind of pushes him away from Evan Lambert. So were they escalating or de-escalating? And the key word in the Ohio statute, criminal trespass, is going to be without privilege to be there. Evan Lambert was invited to attend this NewsNation by the governor's office. The governor, Mike DeWine, was there to give the public information, life and death information about whether to vacate homes. And so Evan Lambert had every right in the book to be exactly where he was at that moment. And later on, you may recall yesterday morning, Marty Hughes had on the governor himself, and the governor said he does not want a prosecution. He said that I wanted Evan Lambert to be there. So the person in charge of the news conference, the great governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine, said he had a right to be there. And after the altercation, the governor said he had a right to be there. And so this case ought to be dismissed in the next 2 to 3 weeks. But the difficulty is going to be this, Kelly. And I think the difficulty is going to be small town Ohio, East Palatine. And I've lived in Ohio my entire life, never heard of the place. It's up against the Pennsylvania border, and their sense of pride has been aroused. And somehow the sheriff, who was directly involved in this incident, and
well, let me ask you this, Bill, before you continue with that, was that man that just walked over and said out now and didn't want to talk about it, was that a sheriff? I'm not sure who that man is, but he certainly didn't do anything to de-escalate the situation.
He went the opposite direction. But the person who invited Evan to be there was the governor, who was using that gymnasium. And isn't it ironic, on the walls of that gymnasium are things like be responsible, be kind? Maybe the sheriff, McLaughlin, who's only been in office about 1.5 years, but he's been in the Columbiana County Sheriff's Office for about 30 years, should have said, now, wait a minute, what are we dealing with here? This was not a resisting arrest. He would have been charged with that. He was charged with DC, and he was charged with criminal trespass. He had a privilege and a right to be there. Plus, overhanging this entire situation is the First Amendment, freedom of the press. This was a government facility. It was a public school where Evan Lambert had a right to be there, and the entity escalating the crisis is the sheriff, the general, and Mr. Big Shot, the director of buildings.
Well, and Mr. Cunningham, let me interrupt you again, because Major General Harris there released a statement where he said that Evan's eyes were big and that he felt threatened and that he instinctively put his hands up because he was convinced, you're seeing this on your screen right now, he was convinced that Evan was prepared to do harm to him. I instinctively put my hands to his... You're laughing, but this was a real thing said by a real, National Guard Major General. Why are you laughing? Why don't you explain that?
I'm laughing because this is a general of the Army, the Ohio National Guard. He's afraid of Evan Lambert. What about the nation's enemies? What about Al-Qaeda? What about MS-13? Well, what about the Communist Red China? Is he frightened of those? What is it about the behavior of Evan Lambert that caused this reaction? I claim at some point, and there's going to be civil lawsuits filed, and down the road, because this was a wrongful arrest at the wrong time. He had a privilege to be there by the governor and the First Amendment, freedom of the press. Evan Lambert tried to de-escalate, and the general, who was afraid, he was scared of Evan Lambert, and he's a general of the Army. Ohio National Guard. Are you kidding me?
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.